Next up, we got my good buddy Jeff Adcock, who's going to be coming to us over the internet. So he'll be videoed in, and Jeff's one of those guys that when you get to talking to him. In fact, he just promised me he was going to keep it under control today, and not go too crazy on the Jeff effect. But the Jeff effect is so much fun and so good. I mean, because you just like get in, you're with him 100%. Like I know he's going to say something good. But anyway, Jeff is one of my buddies, and this is about the benefits that come with the companies that we represent. Most back in my day, when I was a kid, and my folks got me a whole life policy, they got it with the intent that at some point in time I get to cash it out and take the cash and buy something with it. So I survived childhood. In other words, they had some money in case they killed me, they could take care of burying me. You know how that goes, right? I'm gonna kill it. Anyway, never mind. So they had that there, and then once I was more or less an adult, then they let me take it, and that's I think how we got some down payment for our first house. But today there's so many extra benefits that come along with the plans and with companies. One of them in particular is foresters. It's actually called the International Order of Foresters because they're a fraternal company. And what does that mean? That means that you're a member, you're not just a policy holder, and that there's so many new things. I was just going through some of the slides that Jeff had put together. I'm like, oh my God, that is exactly, I didn't even know some of these things. That's how many things they've been adding. But instead of putting money into taxes to the government, they basically put that back into the communities of their policy holders. So I'm sure Jeff's going to rapid fire through some of these things, but I'm going to give him his time. And then after that, we'll get Katie up here to talk about how to sling some secondary insurance and some of the advanced stuff. She's fired up because she's been thinking about it since she got back from Hawaii. I had to do something to keep her mind going because you come back from Hawaii, it's like, what time is it? It is what I mean over there right now. It's 3 o'clock here. What is it, like 10 o'clock in the morning there or something? 11. She still has her clock set to that. Isn't that amazing? She knows. She just looks at her watch. Says it was 11. Anyway, Jeff, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. And say that again so I see if I can see you.
Hey guys, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Let me get your picture. I've been having this whole thing on up here.
Mike's the master. He's got all control.
Pin. Place the pin. Bam. So now we can see you up here. So you just tell me when it's time to switch over, but you're live in the room, so knock yourself out.
Perfect. Well, perfect. My name's Jeff Adcock. I'm down here in the Houston area, part of the Alleman family for about the past 5 years. Thank you, Mike and Michelle, for putting this together and getting everyone together both in person and virtually. I think it's something that we all desperately need. I know those of us who have been around for a while, we miss each other. We usually get together as a company, at least a couple times a year, sometimes 4 or 5 times a year, including trips. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that this year. So that makes this extra important and extra necessary. So thank you so much. It's great to see some of the names and faces from some of my buddies across the country. Tawny, I see Adrian was on there, Dawn, and gosh, a lot of new names too that I don't recognize. That I hope this will be some information, especially that all of y'all can use as you get started in this business. Some of the speakers we've had so far have really had some good points. Mike talking about the why and Simon Sinek's, famous now book. It's really changed business. It's not just the why of why you want to do this business and understanding your why that's going to make you successful, but you have to understand that our whole presentation is really based on the fact of getting that client, getting that person you're sitting face to face with to tell you their why. why did they fill out that letter that came in the mail? Why did they pick up the phone? Why were they searching on the internet? And getting them to tell you that. You have to ask in the home. But that's the difference between success and struggling in this business. Michelle Alleman is the master of the why. Ask those customers why and then listen. Because what happens is it reminds them of the emotion that caused them to ask for your help. And that is how you're going to get an application or get multiple application and referrals. Because, they will justify this with logic, but unlike most sales and most other businesses, B2B, B to consumer, this is different. This is an emotional purchase. It's an emotional decision that got them to contact you. And, somebody, I think it was either Megan or Michelle, was talking about constantly how we learn from each other. Those of us that have been here for 12 years, like Mike and Michelle, 5 years for me and my wife. And, for you folks that are brand new, you have to understand that the things that we pick up and the things that we learn from these meetings, it's the little nuggets that you pick up. And I constantly learn something new in almost every video meeting, every Zoom, every conference that we have. Megan said something the other day, Megan Yakey, she was talking about a policy that we own, that I bought for Katura. It's a mutual of home accidental death with return of premium. I did not know that you had cash value that built up that you could actually access, over the years. You didn't just have to wait until you turned 81. So it's constant. I also want to say welcome to, a lot of the new names I see out there. Some of you may have been here longer, but Danny, Buffy, Jonathan, Stephanie Hope, Tony Savannah, JP, and Virginia, welcome. Hey, you've got a big group of people here, both local and across the country, that would love to help you be successful. That being said, let's jump in real quick. I know everybody's time's valuable. What I want to talk about today, and Mike, you can go ahead and start the PowerPoints, is a little bit about, briefly kind of for the new people, who we are and why we're different. And then specifically, I want to talk to you for a couple minutes about the International Order of Foresters, or as we just call them, foresters, and how unique and special this company is, and how their benefits can help you not only protect families, but really provide them with information and services that are critical for their family. The Alliance works with a bunch of companies. I think we're up to 24 now. There's a reason that we do that. It's because every one of these companies has at least one product that they are the very best in the country at for a certain situation. It kind of depends on what you're looking for, what your client needs, if it's permanent coverage, temporary term insurance, saving for retirement. There's just a handful of companies that we sell multiple products for. And Foresters is one of those. They are really the flagship company for the Alliance. A very stable company. They've been around for pushing 150 years. They're a little bit different than I guess, our new one, Sons of Norway, is a similar setup. But fraternal benefit societies don't have to operate in the same way that all the rest of our for-profit insurers do. Because they're a not-for-profit, they have a lot of money that comes in every year, and it's going up every year because we've grown with foresters that they get to spend, they're required to spend on their policyholders, which they call members, and also the communities where those folks live in. And it's required so that they can maintain their tax status. So that's how you help families. This has been something that it's a great company. It's got an A rating and has for almost the past 20 years. Next slide, please, Mike. So why should your clients seriously consider foresters? Well, one of the best things is that if they're relatively healthy, we can't always help people that have very, very serious medical conditions, although, it's actually opened up quite a bit because Foresters now has brought back their accidental death policy, which was extremely popular. It was so popular, I wonder if they didn't make enough money on it, was why they took it away initially, but they've revamped it. This is the Prepared 2.0. So, unless you've got too many DWIs or speeding tickets or you're too young or too old, that's something you can sell to any client. Probably one of the main benefits that I talk to my clients about is that, look, if you have any Forester's policy and you have children under the age of 18 in your home, if you die, or God forbid, if you and your partner die, your spouse, your partner, whatever the case, then every one of those kids, besides the life insurance that's going to pay, is going to get $900 each every single month until they turn 18 years of age. Well, think about that for a minute, because even for a minimum policy amount, I think Foresters requires $25 on its policies, which can get you a significant amount of coverage. And sometimes we're working with folks that don't have a lot of financial means, but they do want to protect their family, and that's where Foresters is perfect. Lots of times we deal with people that have large families. They've got multiple generations under a roof, and this could be up to, close to $200,000 extra per child in a home. So that's huge. It's basically free insurance, and it does cover whether it's both parents or a single parents. I mean, they have, there's different rules for each scenario, whether it's if you're a widow or a widower and you've lost the other spouse. If you're just a single parent, it may not be the exact same benefits, but those benefits are available regardless. And gosh, we do deal with a lot of single parent homes. So this cannot be overstated. And think about it. This is the reason that your client, the person you're sitting face to face with, has asked you to come meet with them. It's to protect those children, grandchildren, and or their spouse in case something happens to them. Next slide, please, Mike. Orphan scholarships. We hope they never get into the situation where we have to utilize these benefits, but if it does happen, in addition to the up to $194,000 in change that Forest is going to pay per child, each one of those children, once they reach the age of 18, they're going to qualify for scholarships. They're not going to qualify. I mean, they're going to qualify, but it's not something they have to earn. It is a benefit that if you qualify for orphan status, you're going to receive this. And Foresters will pay up to $6,000 each year for any school that they want to go to. It can be a 4-year school. It doesn't need to be, I believe, a first degree, but a 4-year school, a 2-year school, 2-year degree, and it could be a 2-year trade school. They are saying now $1,500 to $6,000 per child, but some places, some things that a kid may decide to do doesn't cost $6,000 a year, so they're not going to pay more than the tuition. But it's a huge benefit. That's one of the biggest things that people get insurance for, is to be able to help their kids financially, not only to have daily living expenses, but to be able to give them a step up when they go to seek a higher education or to learn a trade. Next slide, please, Mike. In addition, every person that has a forester's policy, I think the only limitation that I've seen is that if you have one of the Plan Right whole life policies, it does need to be a minimum face amount of $10,000. But Foresters has competitive scholarships that are available to not only, it could be for the insured, you know, if it was somebody who was under the age of 26 who got that policy, as long as it's your first degree, there's only a couple rules. It has to be the first degree. So you don't just have to be, you know, a senior in high school to apply for this. You could be graduated, you could have worked for a few years, and you can still apply for this. And it doesn't just cover the person with the policy, it covers their children, it covers their grandchildren, and it even covers their great-grandchildren. You know, we meet with lots of folks about final expense coverage. Foresters Plan Right is our go-to product if they're able to qualify. And lots of times they're going to have a bunch of grandchildren and or great-grandchildren who could potentially qualify for this. The only bars that they have to achieve to be able to apply for this is if they're in high school and they're applying, they have to have had a cumulative grade point average of 2.8%, which is not a very high bar. That's about a high C. They have to have completed at least 40 hours of volunteer work with any nonprofit over the past 2 years. So churches included, school clubs, you know, anything where they did volunteer work. In fact, that's the major thing that Foresters looks at when they award these scholarships. It's about 70% volunteer hours. It's about 30% grade point average. And the amazing thing that I share with my clients, and you should share with yours, and this is up to 8,000 total. It's about 2,000 per semester. Oh, and if you're graduated, you're out of high school, you just have to be enrolled in some type of schooling, and you have to have completed your first semester and had that 2.8 average. But, you know, $8,000 can go a long way. It may not pay for Harvard, but if you can get an extra $2,000 along with all the other federal financial aid, grants, scholarships, that can make a big difference. That could easily more than pay for books, you know, or some IT upgrades. So, but the amazing thing is not very many people take advantage of this. Last year, they had about 500 applications come in. So guess what? Half of those kids wound up getting this money. You know, I can't think of another scholarship that if someone's going to apply for, and Don asked a question. Yeah, you can't receive this benefit after you're 26. Because I had a client here just recently who they're in school now, and I think we figured out they could qualify for, Megan's saying it's now 25. Okay. But yeah, once you hit the cutoff age, and they have had, so they make modifications to this, you know, every now and again. So this was the latest information that I had. They needed to use it within the allotted time period. But that's huge. Look, 5 years ago, every single child who applied for this scholarship received it. Why? Because only 250 or less applied. So there's never going to be an opportunity where they're going to have a greater chance of getting some free money. Next slide, please, Mike. Everyday money. You know, what we are is when we do our jobs and we're helping families, you know, we're helping them understand their finances a lot, especially when we're talking to older folks, to make sure that they can afford, that this is going to fit into their budget, because it doesn't do anybody in this chain any good to sell them a policy that they end up having to let go of because they couldn't afford it. So people have questions about money all the time, but it's very difficult to get professional, unbiased advice. If you look on the internet, everybody has a financial stake. They'll tell you what to do with your money, but they're looking to make money off of the information that they give you. So Foresters has a service where you can access, and they don't do this internally in Foresters. All of these benefits, from deciding who gets the scholarships to this financial counseling, they have turned this over to professional organizations. So when you talk to one of these professionals, you may want to know, hey, can I afford to buy a home? How much money do I need to be saving for retirement? Any financial question you have, you can pick up the phone. And if you have a Forester's policy, you can get some professional advice. Credit card debt in general. I mean, it's great to have an access to something where they're not making any money off of you. Foresters is paying for it, whether you call them or not. So that's a really valuable benefit. Next slide, Mike. Okay, this is brand new. Foresters just announced this, but those of you who have been in the business, and if you're new, you're going to find out there's a whole lot of folks out there that are having to deal with diabetes. I myself got diagnosed diabetic about a year ago, and I didn't think it was possible. Nobody in my family has diabetes, and we've got some big farmers that I figured if anybody was going to get diabetes, it'd be them. But my mom was even a master's degree dietitian, but guess what? Too much fresh squeezed orange juice, I guess. But there's a lot of folks that have this. These supplies are expensive and they're important. Foresters now has testing supplies that they can deliver directly to your clients' homes at a great discounted price. And when you let folks know this that are working on a fixed budget, you may be able to find the money to pay for a policy by saving them money with their diabetes supplies. Just ask questions. Next slide, please, Mike. Emergency assistance. Boy, this really covers a lot. Basically, if something happens, they call it a disaster, but it can be a huge range of events. We get a lot of hurricanes down here in Houston, but sometimes it's just been crazy rainstorms where we've had flooding. If they declare that your area is covered by the event, then you have 6 weeks. Your clients have 6 weeks now. All they have to do is pick up the telephone, call into the member benefits number, tell them who they are, give them your policy number. They can look it up if they don't know it, and tell them how they were affected by it. And if it had a financial impact in any way, shape, or form, it could be as little as, look, I couldn't go to work that day. I had to cancel appointments. Then you're going to qualify for a $300 grant. And basically they will deposit it directly into your bank account. I know that I think I've gotten one every single year. In Houston, in the past 12 months, was this past year, we've had 4 different events that qualified. In addition to that, they have something called Benevolence Grants. Boy, these used to go up to about $2,000. Right now they're $300, but if you've had an illness, you've had an accident, you've had another type of event that has had a hardship on your family financially, then you can get a deposit of up to $300. And I'll give you a crazy example. I was walking my Greyhound on the lake behind our house a couple years ago, and we had metal fences so that it didn't block the view. And my dog went over to go sniff this pit bull that was on the other side of a fence. That pit bull bit him on his long greyhound nose and would not let go. And finally, I had to just yank my dog free. Well, in a flash, my own dog, who's the nicest dog in the world, he bit me twice on the hand and in the stomach. Before I never even saw it. It happened so fast. But a few weeks later, just driving down the road, thinking about foresters, I was like, you know what, I ought to call them and tell them what happened. And I just told them exactly what happened. My own dog bit me. I didn't have to give any kind of verification. A few weeks later, I got a check for $200. So you have one event per year at this point. But this, a lot of times, you know, just one of these grants could pay for what they're paying for their insurance per year. Next slide, please. Fun family events. You know, unfortunately with COVID, these have been on hold, but that is going to be passing soon. And, you know, my family, and I know all of us in the Alleman Group, all of us have foresters policies. You know, if you want to learn how foresters events work, get yourself a policy. Personally, I have an accidental. It's $300,000. Plus, I get all the money back if I never die in an accident. So it's kind of like a savings account with free insurance. But, you know, I think it was 2019, they had 5 different water parks, one of them twice. These tickets are usually around $60 or so a piece. So, and you can get 4 of them. That's around, you know, $240 just for one event. And then they throw in some extras, but museums, zoos, Christmas lights, musicals. Last year, 2019, there was 2 musicals, one of them at the Hobby Center. Those tickets were probably $150 a pop. So you could get one event that you go to where you're getting $600 worth of tickets. They have one at the Sharp Financial Center. That was probably a $100 ticket. So it's allowing families that otherwise would never be able to afford some of these events, be able to take advantage of them and spend time as a family and not have to stress out about the cost. I would say that, you know, in most years, my family personally, we've probably gotten total cash event, you know, between the tickets and the grants, anywhere from $2,500 in value if we would have paid for it ourselves to up to some years it's been over $4,000. So it's a huge, huge event. And the great thing is if you're a policy holder, you can be the one to pick the event and put it on. It's easy to do. There's a granting process. And then basically they send the tickets to you. You have to show up at the event and hand those tickets out for an hour or so. They usually give you some free shirts and hats, but you can control if there's something you want to do that, guess what? Go in there and sponsor it. That's how all of these events happen. Next slide, please, Mike. Law Assure, legal services. This one is huge. And what I do is basically now there's an online service. It uses kind of an AI platform to help people draw up a legal will, power of attorney, or a healthcare directive, and to store these documents. I mean, you know how important that is. I mean, you ask people to pull out the policies, the insurance policies that they've paid on for decades, and that they're depending on to help their family, and 8 times out of 10, they have no idea where they're at. So one of the things here in Texas, I know it's different in every state, but I tell this story to families with kids under the age of 18. My first life insurance agent is the reason I went out immediately and got a will, because he told me the story of what happened to him. His brother and his sister-in-law died in a car wreck, and they had 2 young children. Well, in the state of Texas, at least, if a husband and wife die without a will, it does not matter if their parents live in a house next door to them on one side and their brother or aunt and uncle live in the house on the other side. Those children are going to CPS, and they're going to be in CPS custody for a matter of weeks or months until a judge who knows nobody in the family tries to decide if any of them are suitable to take those kids. I've had people immediately, that was when they decided that they're going to do this. I mean, because they're always going to tell you, hey, you know, we're planning on getting a will. I hear that. I ask every client, do you have a will? Even if they're not foresters, because it's so important. If they really want their home to go to their loved ones and not to go to foreclosure, they need to have a will. Here they can get it done for free. I just helped a client get on into the website, set it up, and start her will, Sunday. Next slide, please. Charity benefit designation. Lots of your clients, you know, and especially the older ones, they're big into giving back. Foresters is all about giving back, and so is the Alliance. Our motto is have fun, make money, and make a difference. Well, you can make a difference through foresters. First off, if you have a policy with foresters, most of the policies, not every one, you get to pick a nonprofit, and 1.5% of the death benefit up to $2,000 will go to whatever nonprofit you pick. And that's huge. I mean, nonprofits are hurting right now. And with some tax changes that are coming up, where donations are not going to be tax deductible, unless they renew that, that is going to crush the nonprofit. So that's really big. Next slide, Mike. The other big thing that you can do to help your community or to help a nonprofit, you could even be the founder of that nonprofit, but you can apply for community grants. That's how those free fun family events happen. That's a community grant. But besides getting free tickets or setting up an event, you can also fill out a grant to support a local charity. And they do that not only through money, but it's usually projects, things like putting together packets for, you know, folks, families coming into a battered woman shelter, you know, building Build-A-Bears to take to kids at the, you know, the children's hospital or burn units, pretty much anything you can think of that's a not-for-profit. And they may have just changed this to a maximum of 3 per year, but it was, you could do 2 of these each quarter. So that was up to 8 per year. But regardless, you know, if it's, I think it did go down to 3, that's $6,000 that you can use foresters' money. That, look, they're going to give this money away to a nonprofit no matter what. Any money left over that foresters doesn't spend on these member benefits and community grants, it goes to the Children's Miracle Network, a great nonprofit. Well, foresters give so much money to the Children's Miracle Network that they passed up Walmart about 3 years ago as that nonprofit's #1 donor. So this money is here, it's available, you just have to ask for it. Next slide, please.
I think that was all the slides we had today.
Okay, well, perfect. Does anybody have any questions regarding the material that I've covered so far? I'd be glad to help and answer them. Is there any chats that came in?
We got somebody. Hold on. Let me get the video going.
Of course, it's me, Jeff. On the activities, the events.
Yes.
It's one event that you choose per year?
No. You can go to the way the events work, and that's a good question, is once somebody has been approved for the grant to do a fun family event, Foresters is going to announce it on their website, the members benefit website, which is myforesters.com. once you get a policy, you go in there and register with the username and password. They're going to announce that about 2 months ahead of time. In fact, that's why you have to get these grant requests in 2 months ahead of your event. I mean, it might be right before 2 months, and Foresters is going to say yes. They like events to be on a Saturday, but not always. And it needs to be, you know, family appropriate. Then you can go in there and you can click on that event where it says save the date. And it doesn't seem like it does anything, but what happens is they're going to email you 1 month ahead of the event to register. And so whenever there's events that I really want to go to and get tickets to, I mark it in my calendar and say, okay, I have a reminder that pops up. Lately, it's been, you know, they used to always have registrations Saturday at 9 a.m. In 2019, it was usually Tuesdays for some reason. So you just got to kind of pay attention, but you log in, you know, it's always been 9 o'clock. It's been a.m. is the registration time. I would log into the event right before 9 o'clock. And when 9 o'clock hits, refresh your browser. And we have never not gotten tickets to an event that we wanted to get to. And then a little secret too is, you know, one of our agents has done this for years. He's never even registered for an event. You can register. If you don't get it, you can get on standby, but there's always tickets left over. People don't show up. So you can pop in at the event right before they're done giving out tickets. Any leftover tickets, they'll get.
All right. Sounds like we had somebody pop in. Or maybe it's just my microphone here. There's some other questions that we're asking about for some. I know, Jeff, you kind of worked with some of these things as far as the events, the money you can get for community grants or events kind of thing. What's your advice there? I mean, my mindset is kind of like, well, you know, the best thing's going to do is get your policy with Foresters. That's how you get it first, right?
Right.
And then get signed up for My Foresters, right? And then start talking to the folks about what your ideas are, because this, like you said, some may and some may not. But right, what's your advice?
I mean, you know what? It's so user friendly. So basically, they're going to show you a couple 2-minute videos that sort of explain how the things work. They've got a huge long list of frequently asked questions, and chances are, whatever your question is, they're going to answer it right there. But
so it can't be a family reunion.
Pardon me?
It can't be a family reunion, although some may consider that to be a charity.
No, it has to be benefiting a 501(c) nonprofit. Gotcha. So you can't do it to throw, you know, a company office party. You know, it does have to be, and it's not just usually going to be cash. The cash has to be spent on, usually it's a project, or like, you know, an example, like I said, we did the Build-A-Bears where you showed up at the mall. Other policy holders who signed up for it show up, and you all go into Build-A-Bear back before the plague. And we put together bears, you know, everyone built their own bear, and then they took them all to the Children's Hospital. But you could be the one who has a nonprofit. I'm looking at one that I'm working at right now. It's the Houston Gulf Coast Homeless Coalition. And there's definitely some things that nonprofit needs, where I can't just give them a check for $2,000. There's things that they need. We can help stock a food bank. We can, and there's tons and tons of examples of ones that you can do, and they give examples of other ones, but you're not limited to that. But yeah, it does need to be for a registered and, you know, a 501(c) in good standing.
And I will say this, because I think Foresters just brought back their accidental, right? Is that right? I forget which one it was. Before
that's correct.
And so maybe you're hesitant, but it's a great product, especially if you're a brand new agent. You're like, I need something on myself. And look, it's about getting to know the products. You know, we have them. That's how we know these things. That's how I can tell you that I personally have tried to get to events and not gotten the tickets because I'm not as disciplined as Jeff. You know, but there's been opportunities, like we've all went to Elf on the Shelf, you know, musical. mean, there's a lot of things you can do that are going to come back in 2021. Damn it. That's what I said.
Hey, and one more thing I'm going to add too. They constantly are adding new and temporary programs. Early this year, they had $200 first responder grants. And my family did that. Took probably 5-10 minutes to fill out the application. They sent me a debit card. Me and my family, we took little mini bundt cakes and iced tea from that fancy HTO place to a group of first responders. And they have one going on right now that's very similar. You can get $200 grants. It's quick and easy. You do need to follow up and do the report at the end, but that's also good marketing for your business. You're getting somebody else to finance it. I always mention foresters, and people want to know what kind of insurance company, does stuff like this. And I tell them, that's a great way, besides just, leads and things like that and referrals. This is a great way to drum up business.
On first responders?
I was also going to say that their pricing, if you look it up, like if you're doing a comparison between CFG and them and MOO, Mutual of Omaha, their pricing is always lower or maybe $1 more on a really expensive policy.
You're absolutely right. I mean, basically, look, if you're pretty healthy, Mutual of Omaha, Foresters, Columbian Financial Group, and even Transamerica and their final expense, they're all going to be within a couple bucks of each other in most cases. But the past several years, Foresters has usually been the cheapest. And if it's $1 more, I mean, the value that you get from these member benefits easily more than make up for that. I mean, you're possibly going to be able to get, hundreds of thousands of dollars for your children if you die, and, scholarship. So it's an easy decision. I mean, I have a lot of people that this is definitely what helps close the deal. And, there's no better way for you to learn what I've covered than to get yourself a Forester's policy.
That's right. And that's probably the biggest message from the day. Thank you, Jeff, so much, buddy. I think
Good to see everybody.
Megan answered a couple of questions. We'll answer your chats. But thank you so much. Wish you could be here. Got to come back out soon. I know we owe y'all a dinner or something. Right. So